Let's move on to necessary and sufficient conditions. Necessary and sufficient conditions are also another theoretical perspective to understand concepts and also to explain them. This approach is also related to our thinking and our experience of the real world. I'll just try to explain this with an example. Let's suppose that there is a concept woman, and this concept of woman needs to include, it must have certain conditions which should be met in order to call somebody a woman. I mean, if you call somebody a woman, there must be certain characteristics in that person or that thing in order to become a woman. And those characteristics are those general features which we usually attribute to a woman. Allow me to clarify this further. How information can be organized in such a concept of necessary and sufficient conditions? It is usually organized in a form of a list of attributes which are necessary or sufficient in order to become a certain concept. As I said previously, let's have a look at the same example. What makes a woman? What attributes are there in order to become a woman? Let's say X is a woman and L is a list of attributes which are necessary to become a woman. In the list you can see that X, a woman, is human, is an adult, and is a female. All these may be seen as necessary conditions, because if you miss any of these, the definition or the meaning of woman or the concept of woman would not be complete. So the list of those attributes which are absolutely must or necessary to become a certain concept or to emerge as a certain concept, they are called necessary conditions. But if we find a certain set of conditions or situations in which may be enough to become a certain concept or idea or a real thing, they may be called sufficient conditions. So there is slight difference between necessary and sufficient conditions. Sufficient conditions may be seen as the conditions which are good enough to qualify for a certain concept, and the necessary conditions are those without which a concept may not exist at all. If any of those is missing, the concept does not exist. In this theory, we can see that the knowledge about a certain thing is collected or gathered in a list of attributes or in a list of bits of knowledge, which may be seen as one of the drawbacks of this theory. And it also assumes that speakers share same concept. But if they do not share same concept, they would not reach to the same conclusion, because in order to believe in the same necessary or sufficient conditions, it is necessary that people should have same concepts of that idea in the mind. If they do not have the same concept, probably their making of necessary or sufficient conditions would be different. If something has them, I mean they have common attributes in the mind, it would be the same concept which is being asked. If they do not share the same concept, it may be different. Let's go for another example. We all are familiar with the word zebra. Zebra, we might agree on some of the attributes of zebra. It's an animal, it has 4 legs, is stripped, and is herbivore. It eats herbs. The problem is, which of these conditions is necessary? If you ask a plain question, probably the first one. First of all, it's an animal. But if we move forward, we find that there could be some difference in conditions in various situations. For example, if we are looking at a herd of zebras, we might find a zebra who is white and black, and we might still be compelled to call it zebra, because in other features it will look like a zebra. Similarly, by some birth default or defect, we can see a zebra who is not four-legged but three-legged. Would we call it zebra? Yes, we would still call it zebra, because many other features of that animal would be similar to those of zebra. So we would be tempted to call him zebra also. So this theory of necessary and sufficient conditions, though it helps us understand the concept or the concept of the concept, but it still needs to be elaborated further to make us understand what concept is.